This is Five Nights at Candy's cut content. Let me know if you enjoyed, cause I'd love to do more about other fan games. Let's get into it. Coming from before the actual release of Candies, around when the teasers of FNaF 4 started coming out, Emil had the idea to model Candy in the same style of the Nightmare animatronics, leading to this image being posted to both Reddit and Tumblr. While it was clearly stated under both posts that Nightmare Candy wouldn't be making any sort of appearance in the final release of the game, according to the wikis, it was apparently considered to make an appearance in the third game, though I can't really verify it. Shadow Candy originally is just a secret character who will rarely show up on the main stage camera once both Candy and Cindy are gone. Once he is spotted and the player watches him for a few seconds on the stage, he will begin slowly sliding up from the bottom of your window. If you don't shut it in time, the game crashes. So also kind of like Golden Freddy from the first FNaF game. In the extras menu for the third installment, some unused renders can be found that implied this mechanic might have been a bit different. The first of the two being an almost full body render of him holding his arm out, somewhat similar to Withered Freddy in FNaF 2, and the second being a closer up shot of him, which would have been used most likely as a jump scare instead of just crashing the game like he does now. In an interview with the creator of Candies, Emil Mako, he confirmed that the original idea behind Shadow Candy was that he would have worked pretty much the same as Golden Freddy, randomly appearing in your office and killing you if you look at him for too long.
I think there's something about Shadow Candy being able to appear in your office like Golden Freddy in the first game.
Similar to Shadow Candy, Blank also has an unused render in the files, hidden in the code that lights up and flickers the office. This photo of a less withered Blank can be found. Beyond that, it hasn't ever really been made clear what this would have been used for, though many people assume it to be a frame of an early version or unused jump scare of his. Also included in the extras menu for Candies 3, 3 different map concepts for the first Candies game can be found, each having some pretty interesting distinctions. The first one has a few similarities, mainly the top right section here and these two closet rooms which are moved from the right to the center of the location. The one thing to note about this is, if you haven't already noticed, there are 2 windows inside of your office instead of just one. There isn't really any renders or information about this version of the office though, but it seems like Blank would have shown up to one of the 2 windows and you'd have to be able to somehow discern which one he's at before he smashes it in. There also seems to be a long narrow hallway or vent in the bottom right, which also contained a camera, meaning the animatronics would have most definitely used that to make their way throughout the restaurant. The second concept map is a lot simpler, having less rooms while still having the 2 windows, along with an expansion of the existing vent and a brand new one in the very middle. Other than that, there aren't a whole lot of changes from the first and this one, though I really don't got any clue what these green blocks could have meant. If anyone knows though, please let me know in the comments. The final beta map design is a whole lot closer to the final version now, with a few changes to this area on the right, as well as the middle room, which finally removes the second window. Other than that, yeah, basically the same as the location now, other than the positions of the cameras being switched up a tiny bit. These little icons can be found left in the files of the game, containing a skull and arrows pointing to either the left or right. These icons being warning signs which would have shown up on your screen to warn you of when an animatronic would be outside one of your doors. These most likely were a replacement for just being able to see the eyes of the character from outside of your door. It was probably removed in favor of the eyes to make it seem more natural, to not ruin the surprise of being attacked by being able to see exactly when they're right outside your door. Another possibility is that it was just used for testing during development and just deactivated upon release, just never being fully removed. Another bit included in the Candies 3 extra menu is this jumbled up, distorted photo of the rat, fittingly titled Unused Teaser for the Rat. This looks very similar to a screen used in the second game when the rat crashes your cameras. Considering it took only a couple months for Candies 2 to come out after the original, I wouldn't put it past Emil if he just decided to save it to keep some of the suspense, or to reuse the style of the teaser and use it for something else. That's all the cut content for the first Candies game. If you've made it this far into the video, I make more videos just like this, so definitely subscribe, and if you're actually enjoying it, why not drop a like? It helps a ton. Let's keep going. In the initial announcement post on GameJolt for the release of Candies 3, Emil would give a bit of insight on the development of the previous game, Candies 2. One of those bits being a list of potential mechanics, which he labeled the barrel of mechanics, which were all just ideas based around how to avoid or stop the animatronics that he had considered implementing throughout the development of the game, but just never made it through. The first of these ideas would be to impair the animatronics' vision in some way, with either some sort of flash of light to blind them, something like a flashlight, turning off the lights, or even being able to somehow cover their eyes yourself or turn them entirely around. The second would be to get away from the animatronics by either hiding under a table, in a closet, putting on a mask to hide your face, or just getting up and walking into a different room entirely. The last of the ideas, which would be the one that he would pull the actual mechanics from, distracting the animatronics with some sort of sound or light or another person/object. Considering a lot of the hate Candies 2 gets, Emil could have definitely benefited from finding ways to implement multiple of these features to make the gameplay feel a bit more complete. He's definitely aware of that now though. In the extras menu for the game, an old sketch was included showing an early concept of what Emil wanted the layout of the location to be, included with a few nods to more unused content and mechanics that I'll talk about in just a few seconds. But the main thing we're looking at is just the basic layout, being a lot smaller and having a lot less cameras than the one we have now. Though I honestly think I like the smaller location, I just think it would fit a lot better. There are also a lot of these little bits placed around the location being labeled as vents, which the animatronics would have most likely been able to use to move quickly between locations. Along with that, we get to see positions and directions of the cameras in this location. Compared to the location in the final version of the game, there aren't really a whole lot of similarities other than the already large office, which is made even bigger. Speaking of the office, a while after this, in the extras menu of Candies 3, the fully modeled and unused office was actually shown, the scenery being pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is being a bit less space, having a wall directly to the left of you, this singular chair sitting in front of your desk, and a phone directly to your left. Another feature of this office, which isn't visible in the render shown, but appears on this sketch that I showed earlier, is a door behind the player to the left, just out of view. Which brings us to the next thing I want to talk about. In a Five Nights at Candy's marathon stream by FNaC, Emil would pop in after he finished playing Candies 2 for a brief moment to give some thoughts and a little more behind the scenes information on some unused mechanics. This being that door to your left, which you were intended to keep closed, that would periodically be blown open by the wind, playing louder ambience to mask the sounds of the animatronics moving, as well as allowing the animatronics access to your office. Emil didn't really say anything about why this was removed other than it being quote-unquote weird, and that he wanted the office to be wider and have more uses.
One of the original ideas, instead of the vent behind you that's kind of just invisibly there, there was supposed to be a door behind you to your left. So when you look behind yourself, which you do by scrolling to the left, there's a door that you got to keep closed. But every so often, the wind would basically, the breeze would make it open up automatically, and you'd be able to hear more ambience and behind you from the door being open. By having it closed, I guess animatronics couldn't get in because they see the door is closed and then they just figure, all right. Yeah, so that was an idea that didn't make it into the game, and it's still not going to be in the game because that would be I don't know, too
weird. Way too weird. Yeah.
Which animatronic would have used this door? Well, I'm glad you totally asked, as the sketch that he mentioned in this clip is the exact one I showed for the unused map, which right below it shows that down this large hallway that connects to that door, he was considering having either the rat, cat, or both that would have ran down the hallway and attacked the player, indicated by the long arrow running down the hallway with the text rat/cat running to door ? Under it. Moving on from that single sketch, another very early idea when making Candies 2, Emil wanted there to be 2-frame walking animations for each of the animatronics to allow the player to see where the animatronics went when they left each of the cameras. But due to hardware limitations of not 1, but 2 whole gigabytes of RAM, there was no way he'd be able to fit all of the animations necessary for each of the animatronics in each of the rooms, not to mention the max mode 720 being split into 2 separate nights for this exact reason. This more so being just a mistake overlooked before the game came out. Upon the release of Candies 2, the time in the top right corner that would track from 12 AM to 6 AM just like every other game, instead read PM for each of the hours. And I say this is more so a mistake from the developer, as not long after, this bug would be fixed and the time would read correctly, though images of a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 PM were seemingly still left in the game after the fact. Hey, you never know, maybe at first it was supposed to be just a normal ass job going from 1 to 6 PM. To cover the Candies 3 section of the video, I called someone who knows a whole lot more about the game than me. They'll be taking over from now. Be nice, see you soon.
Obviously, I'm the most qualified person to talk about this because I assume that not many of you can say that you've 100% this game at age 12 on your grandmother's laptop. So, yeah, the expert has entered the building. Okay, but actually, I was excited to be invited onto this video because Five Nights at Candy's 3 is a childhood favorite game of mine, and I'll take any chance I can to talk about it. So, here is Five Nights at Candy's 3's cut content. Five Nights at Candy's 3 is the most recent installment in the Five Nights at Candy's series. And no, FNaC 4 doesn't count. That game is basically still cut content. It features 3 monster animatronics, 11 minigames that take place before and after the nights, secret minigames that you need to unlock in the pre-night minigames, 2 secret endings with one of them being a huge quest requiring you to replay the game and follow the paper trail left behind by another character, which takes you through more minigames after playing secret back in the other minigames. Yeah. It makes sense why this game got delayed so much. Both these delays came with a lot of ideas that ended up getting scrapped during various parts of development, which one should really compile and show off in a YouTube video. One of the most popular pieces of cut content in the entire series has to be Monster Cat entering your room like Monster Rat. In the main game of FNaC 3, Monster Cat just shows up on either side of your bed, requiring you to move your mouse just a tiny bit farther when checking for Rat to repel him back before he jump scares you. Compared to Rat, his role in the night is extremely small, so imagining him working directly alongside Rat is really interesting. And thanks to Click Team not cutting the assets from the main build, we can see the scrapped animations of him dodging the flashlight, blocking the cassette tape, leaving the room, and even an unused jump scare. The reason for this being cut is unclear. It's been said that it was cut for being too hard on the FNaC fandom wiki and Imgur dump of these assets, but I haven't been able to find a mill saying this himself anywhere. If the source for this is FNaC 3 but better, then you know, that's fair. Monster Rat and Monster Cat were actually named Nightmare Rat and Nightmare Cat early on into development. While you can see in some dev sketches that the original concepts of a Nightmare Rat didn't really go in the same direction as the Nightmare animatronics in FNAF, it seems that Emil still thought the names described them pretty well and didn't feel the need to rename them because FNaC 3 takes place in Mary's nightmares, so like, they're technically still nightmares. Though since then, we know that those names were dropped in favor of classifying them as monsters. In a random comment on a random Reddit post from almost 10 years ago, Emil revealed that the names had changed, and while at first he thought calling them nightmares would be fine, somewhere along the line he decided that he didn't want them to be animatronics, rather being alive. The funny thing about this is that it was kind of foreshadowed in the original announcement for FNaC 3, with Emil saying, "But lastly I must add, that even the monsters are designed in a new way. They aren't just huge, withered animatronics with big teeth and metal eyes with ridges on them. Heck, they might not even look like animatronics to some people. You'll see." Personally, I'm glad the names changed because they're just so iconic now and help to enforce their differences from the nightmare animatronics that appear in FNaF 4. One of Candy's 3's many endings is the Forgotten ending. It's achieved by knocking over Origami Cat during each night of the game. And then when you start the 5th night, instead of facing off against Monster Rat and Cat, you're greeted by Origami Cat's monologue as you achieve the Forgotten ending. This ending was already pretty cool, but did you know it was originally supposed to be much more involved? In the game files are scrap sprites for an Origami Cat boss battle that would have taken place on the 5th night, only really being described as a minigame boss battle thing where you had to avoid his attacks for the duration of the night. It's hard to say exactly what this means, but I love imagining it as the Origami Cat jumping in as a third threat next to Monster Rat and Cat to create some extra chaos in the final night. But it's not entirely known what this could have turned into, as it was unfortunately scrapped for time and for not fitting with the rest of the game, even though this is like literally the coolest thing ever. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that this is implemented in some form for the DX release later down the line. Right before the game's released, Emil started talking about an idea for a different, fun with plush trap-esque minigame that he wanted to add after the game's release called Staring Contest. This would be a minigame in between each night where you would stare at Monster Rat directly in the eyes, and if you looked away, you lost, resulting in a jump scare. This concept is interesting, but it had a ton of logistical problems. Firstly, the game does not support eye tracking, and can't without external hardware to do so. So, instead of looking Monster Rat in the eyes, you would need to hover your mouse over his eyes. But then, what's stopping the player from just placing their cursor over his eyes and looking away? Well, to fix that, you gotta create a small moving circle that they have to keep their cursor on. But then to actually make the player lose by jolting their mouse away from that zone, you need to add mini jump scare distractions. But at that point, jump scaring them feels a little bit redundant because they're assumedly already looking away. Eventually, the rolling line of iterating on the original idea of a staring contest versus rat became a bit muddy and less interesting, with the final two nails in the coffin being that there wasn't really a place to put it since there are minigames on both ends of the night, and that the minigame could have just been boring as hell in practice. The only thing that surfaced from this concept was this render of Monster Rat staring directly into the camera, so it can safely be assumed that it probably didn't get too far out of the concepting phase. Unlike the Origami Cat boss fight, I'm not as stoked at the concept, but like, imagine this on an arcade machine at one of those Halloween horror nights that FNaF is at with actual eye tracking. Could be fire. Just saying. Sorry, canon FNaC arcade machine, the FNaF 2 movie. In the game files, there are renders of Rat, Cat, and Vinny with blood smeared on top of them to represent the three wise monkeys. See no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. Notably, they are not in their monster forms, instead being the rat and cat from FNaC 2 and Vinny before he turns into his monster form. It's unclear whether or not these are actually used, because Vinny's explanation for them is in the vague posting Hall of Fame. What do you mean, I suppose they're just super secret? Like, so secret that they're only found in the files? Where are they, Emil? I actually considered learning how to decompile Click Team games to try and see if these screens actually appear somewhere, but if it's actually some last layer below Lollipop, Shadow of the Colossus kind of secret, then like, it'd be super lame to dig it out like this, so take it in. The rat, who wouldn't hear what he was saying and took things too far. The cat, who couldn't see how desperate he was to cover it all up. And Vinny, who would never speak of the evils that occurred in that room. These super secret screens may never be found. And they probably aren't in the game. Shh, secret. Anyways, to wrap up FNaC 3's unused content is this broken screen texture, which would take you to Lollipop's hideout from the main menu after clicking the static. Yeah, that's basically it, but the explanation for it being cut is kind of funny, because after spending half an hour rendering this, Emil added it and it just looked bad. So he scrapped it. That's game development. So yeah. That's everything that I could find that had a concrete explanation. Thank you, Friy, for letting me cover this section of the video since I love this game so much, and I don't know how to segue this, so I'm just gonna send this back to you and let you decide how this should flow into like your outro or something. It'd also be funny if we kind of just left it like this and cut.
Thank you so much to Otto for helping out with this section. They also gathered all of the background footage in this video, as I still don't have a PC, so make sure to check them out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.